All right. So again, since I just started the recording, to get into Boardmaker, you'll click on this logo down here on the dock. That'll open it. The first time you ever use Boardmaker, you are going to need to sign in. So if your teacher hasn't given you their username and password yet, you want to make sure you get that from them. And then when you get ready to use Boardmaker, I know it gives you a few options, but you'll want to go with the sign-in option. It'll then take you into the internet to Boardmaker Online. So then you would just type their username and password. And then click login. You'll see this screen, and at that point you can close it out and get back into Boardmaker, and it should bring it into their account. Anything, this recent tab is what you'll see first, and it's anything that you edit on this computer. So you might do something like on the desktop and then switch over to a laptop. If that's the case, you won't see that here. This basically is what you are doing on this computer. I know Norma mentioned that her teacher had created some folders. So like she has a folder and Colleen has a folder. So if that's the case for you, you would find that under MyBoardmaker. So it takes it a couple minutes to load. And that's one thing you may notice too when you open up the editor. If it seems like it's just spinning and spinning, it does take it a few minutes to open. They say it's a large program and it has a lot of stuff that it's got to bring down. So if you're trying to get in and it seems like it's taking a while, that is normal. And it seems like this MyBoardmaker link is the same, just because it does have a lot that it's trying to bring in. But let's say your teacher has a folder for you. You would find it here and you could click on it to open it and see the activities that are in there. You can also see all the activities that have been made in the account. So let's say you made this on another computer and you wanted to edit it on this computer. Jeff, the editor is going to mainly be on the computer. You can play activities on the iPad, but the editing is going to be on your computer. So let's say I wanted to bring this activity in from one of the activities. I could click download. You'll see this pop up. That's normal. It's basically just converting it and getting it ready to use on this computer. But once you do that, you'll be able to edit it. So again, this MyBoardmaker is basically to find all the activities in the account and any folders that you have. The thing about Boardmaker is you can make your own things, but then you also have access to like a whole community of schools around the world and things that they've made in Boardmaker. So if your teacher says, okay, we're going to do something with ABCs and I want you to find me an ABC activity, you can click on this community button and it'll take you back into Boardmaker Online, and there's like a search option here. So then let's say we're doing something with ABCs. I can just type in the search bar and hit return. And so now it's given me, might take it a minute to load. It's given me some options for ABCs. So let's say I like this ABC thing here. I can click on the link. That'll show me a bigger picture of it to see if I like it. But if it is something that I want to print off or that I want to edit, I can click this plus button. And now it gives me access to this whole toolbar. So I could just go ahead and print it if I like it, or I could click the pencil and it'll open it in the editor. One thing that I'm sure you've heard your teachers mentioning is that Boardmaker is still kind of working some glitches out. So if it doesn't go the first time, try it again and hopefully it'll come up. But you can see now I have the ability to edit it. So that would be if your teacher was like, find me an activity in the community. It's under the community tab. But what I think a lot of you guys are going to be doing is just making some visual supports. So you would do that under new. And you do have some options for new activities. Anything that you've used recently, any templates, they'll show up here so you can find them again quickly. You do have some pre-made templates where you don't have to make your own. Printable is going to be obviously anything that you are going to print off at the printer and use on paper. There's all sorts of categories you can browse. You can do a search. Let's say you're looking for calendar. You could search for calendar and click return. And now you can see all the calendar templates. And then you would just click on one and click create. I'm going to make this bigger so you guys can see it. I thought I went into the community and then I lost my full screen. So yeah, you click on the template that you want to use and click create, and then you'll be able to edit it. Let's say that you're doing the calendar every single month and you know you're going to constantly be updating it. You can click on it and you see there's this black line around it that means it's highlighted. You can click on the favorite button, and now I can click on this favorites thing here and it shows up. So again, if you're doing a calendar and that's something you're always editing, you can add it to favorites, and that makes it a lot easier to find. But I think a lot of what we're going to be doing is making visual supports from scratch. So I think most of the time you'll be using this blank option. So you have some options for blank activities. Portrait is going to be longer from top to bottom. Landscape's going to be longer from left to right. So you can kind of pick whichever one that you think is going to be best for your activity. Interactive is if you're making something for the iPad or smartboard, because this means that it's laid out in a way that it plays well on a screen. So if you're doing something digital, you could go with interactive. Otherwise, you can pick one of the print ones. So I'll just click the one I want. I'll see that black square around it, and that means it's selected, and I can click create. So now it brings me into the editor. So I'm going to kind of just start off going through, because I know you open it and it looks like a lot at first because there's a lot of buttons. So I'm going to kind of go over what each of these buttons mean. You see there's a drop down arrow here next to button that gives you a bunch of options for buttons. I'm going to just focus today on button. I did put in that handout that I showed you in the Google Meet what each of these mean, but for today we're just going to focus on a plain old button. You can always go back to these later. So you just want to make sure that's selected. You can see it's blue, so I know I'm drawing a button. I have my little hand tool here, and the way I make a button is I hold my mouse down, and I don't lift my hand up. I keep my hand on the mouse, and then I can move the mouse around, and I can adjust the size of the button. And then when I'm done, I can take my hand off the mouse, and I've drawn a button. Anytime there's this blue line around it, that means it's selected. You can put your mouse in the corner, and then that allows you to kind of adjust the size of it. Sorry, I know there's a little bit of a lag there. You put your mouse in the corner and you can adjust the size. The shapes tool is the same thing as a button, only it's a different shape. So let's say I was doing something with stop and I wanted a stop sign. Again, I clicked on that arrow next to shape and I click on the octagon, and now I hold my mouse down, can move around. And when I let go, I've drawn a octagon shape. And again, anything blue is selected. Let's say I don't want that. I just hit the delete button on my keyboard and it goes away. You can also draw lines. So obviously you would click on the line tool. The line is blue, so that means that's what's selected. And then it's the same exact thing as a button. I just hold my mouse down and I move my mouse, and I was able to draw a line. This spray tool here is really helpful because that allows you to basically make the same exact button. It duplicates it. So if I click on spray, that's blue, I can see that's selected. Now I click on my button, I can hold, try that again. So my spray is selected. I'm going to hold my mouse down just like I do with other things. And now I can move my mouse to the right or down, and I'm making like an exact copy of that button. If I don't like where the button is, if I want to move it, I can click on it. I've got that blue line around it. So now I can move it around to where I want to put it. Notice I didn't put my mouse in the corner. I just put my mouse right in the middle of the button, and I was able to move it. So that kind of shows you how you can duplicate and move buttons. Oops, sorry. Clicked. You'll notice if you like double click on that button, it'll open the actions editor. We're not going to get into that today. For anything you do in Boardmaker, you can just click once. But if you do accidentally click too many times, you can just click OK and close out of it. So I'm going to show you guys how to put symbols into buttons. There's a couple ways you can do it. One way that I like is if you just type in what you want. So let's say we're making go and stop. You can see it's blue. I have it selected. If I type go and click enter, it brings me right into the symbol editor. So then I kind of have some options here. From file would be like if I have one on my computer that I want to use. If I click on from file, I can go to where I have my picture. I can click on it, click open. It puts it in there. So that is one option. If you're, and this would be if you're going to use it one time. So if it's one picture and you want to put it on there, you could do that. Or what I think a lot of what we're going to be doing is just searching the Boardmaker symbol library. I was playing with this before, but you can see here right in the middle, there's a search bar. So you can type whatever it is you need and click enter. And now it gives you all of the results. You can kind of play around with the search. So if you want it to just only show you the whole word, you can click on that. If you click on this little arrow here, you can find words that sound like it or patterns. But really, I think if you have it on anywhere or a whole word, that'll help you find what you're looking for. So then you can just click on the one that you want and click select, and it puts it in the button. One thing I wanted to show you too about this symbol search that I think is going to be really helpful for us, because both of our buildings, we have English and Spanish speaking students. Right here next to the search bar, these lines, that means filter. So if you click on that, you can actually change the language. So we could change it to Spanish and click apply. So now it's going to search in Spanish. Down the line, Boardmaker said that they're going to have something where you could type it in English and it'll generate the Spanish result. So that'll be really helpful. But for now, we will need to know what the Spanish word is. So obviously, those of you who speak Spanish, you would just type the Spanish word in here. Or if you don't speak Spanish, you can go into Google Translate and just paste whatever you find in here. I think go is ear. I know that might not be the best translation, but that's what I remember from high school Spanish. So now you can see I found a Spanish result as well. And then when I'm done in Spanish, I can click on the filter again and go into English. And now I'm looking for English again. So that's kind of a nice feature that we can make it bilingual for our students. This My Media here, we went over the symbol library. You do have an option. Your teacher may have some symbols in My Media on Boardmaker Online. So this would be how you could search for that. I know a lot of the teachers put in pictures of the students, and then they make visual supports for each specific student. Going back a couple of years, I had a student named Ryan. So I think his picture is still in here. I can search for him. His picture came up. So again, I was under the My Media and I searched his name and I was able to find his picture. If your teacher wants you to add media, you would do that here under add media, but I think more than likely they'd probably put it in ahead of time and you would just need to search for it. You also have the ability to search the web for symbols. It's bringing up a bunch of famous Ryans for us. Going back to Go, I could click Go. And now it's giving me some results from the web. One thing we've noticed with this is sometimes you drag it in and it doesn't go. Some of these, it tries to find ones that you have permission to use. Every now and again, if it's copyrighted and you don't have permission to use it, when you drag it, it'll be just a white screen. So if it's not working, just try another one. But again, you would just click the one you want and select, and it would put it in there. So that's kind of how you can add a symbol. Again, I got to all of that just by hitting return when I had the button selected. You also probably noticed that over here there's a symbols tab. So if I click on that, it gives me the same exact thing. It gives me the symbol library, it gives me the My Media, and it gives me the web. So let's say we're doing stop. I'm under web. I searched for it in the search bar and hit return. I like this one. So here, what I can do is I hold my mouse down and I drag it over to the button. And now it's put it in the button. So again, you can just click return, or you can go over here to the symbols tab and drag. It's really whichever you prefer, whatever seems easiest for you. So I know I've given you guys quite a bit of information so far. Are there any questions on anything I've gone over? All right. So now I'm going to show you how to create a new page, because you don't necessarily have to do one page. You can put multiple pages in. So you probably see over here on the left, there's a new page button. If you click on that, it actually gives you some options. Blank page will make a brand new blank page, just like the one we were on a few minutes ago. And I think that's mostly what we would do. But if you have another activity that you really liked it and you want to put it in here, you could click that new page from activity option. Documents is where the Boardmaker stuff is stored. So you could kind of just work your way. I clicked on Boardmaker, I clicked on activities. email address, stop and go. I work my way to the activity that I like and click open. And it's like, okay, I really like this, how this took up the whole page. I want to put this on this one as well. So I click on it and click select. And now it created me a new page from another activity that I had done. I could also do one from a template, and it's basically the same thing. I click new page from template, and then I can search the printable templates and find a page from there that I want to use. But again, I think more than likely we'd just be making a new blank page. So if I click on blank page, you can see it's adding them here on the left, and I can just, there's a scroll bar here. I can scroll down to the one that I want. And so on this page, I wanted to show you guys a text box, because there might be some activities that your teachers want you to make that you don't necessarily need a symbol, you just need to put some text. So you would click on label. You can see it's blue, so that's what's selected. And it's the same exact thing as a button. I hold my mouse down, I move my mouse to the size that I want. And when I let go, I have a text box. As long as this blue line is around it, that means that I'm able to type in it, I'm able to edit it. So I could then type, this is a text box, or whatever it is I want to say. And now I've got text on there. So then you can see it went away. I need to click on it to bring that blue line back to mean that I can edit it. This properties tab is where you can make some changes to it. So you can see if you scroll down a little bit, there's a font section. So let's say I want it to look a little fancier. I can change the font. I can change the size. So like this is obviously like you do in Google Docs, in your email, you can change the font and the size. It's the same exact thing. You can bold it, italicize it, underline it. If you want it to be in the center, you could, or over to the left, you can click on wherever you want it to go. These are if you want it to be in the middle or in the bottom. Again, you can make it look exactly how you want it to look. Font color is, you can change the color of the text. So let's say I wanted it to be red. I could click on my color, or I could click around in here and pick the color of my own and click OK. And you can see now it just changed the color of the text box. There is an option to add symbols to it. So if your teacher says, I want some symbols on it, symbolate basically means it adds symbols. So right now it's off. That's what it'll be on by default. But you can just click on this drop down and click on, and now it's added symbols. I could have it put a symbol on everything, or I could just put it on certain words. I can kind of customize it. Let's say I want it to be on the bottom. I could click on the drop down and put it on the bottom. If it's hard to see the symbols, you can change the number. The bigger the number, the bigger the symbol. So you could just pick a number bigger than 35, click return. Now it's made the symbols there bigger and easier to see. So that kind of explains how to do a text box and most of the properties in there. Are there any questions about text boxes? All right, so while I'm on this page where there's really not a lot on here, I wanted to kind of show you how to edit the background of the page. So basically, when you don't have anything selected, you're editing the entire paper. So you don't have a ton of options here, but one thing that you might really do is background. So you can add a symbol to the background. If I click add symbol, one thing I didn't say earlier is that there's these folders of different categories. So if you're making like a sorting activity or something, this kind of comes in handy because you can just click on it and it shows you different symbols. You don't have to think of them. You can kind of find them pretty easily. So I'm just going to pick a random symbol here just to show you. So now it added it to the whole background. I really don't know a lot of people who do this, but if you find a use for it, that would be right here on the background under add symbol. If I don't like that, I just click remove image and it goes away. What I think we'll really be doing is changing like the color of the page. So let's say we don't want white, we want it to be brighter, we want it to be yellow, make it stand out. You can see I clicked on fill. So when I click on fill and click on yellow and click OK, now I've changed the color of the whole page. So again, when nothing's selected and you're in properties, you're going to be editing the whole paper. So that kind of goes over that. I'm going to jump back into here. I wanted to show you with the spray tool. I showed you how to spray and create the exact same button, but I also wanted to show you that it works with symbols. So if I'm holding my mouse down and I'm moving my mouse to the right. So now I just created 2 more of the go symbols, which might be helpful. Sometimes we print a whole page of visuals, and this is a really quick way to get them quickly. So again, I highlighted spray, I held my mouse down and moved to the right, and now I've made more stops. So now we're kind of in the properties. One thing I didn't show you on the other one is layout. If you click here, you can kind of pick where the buttons are. So like if you want them to be like really organized, you could click on that layout drop down and select this one, and now it's made it into an organized grid. Or you can, this very first one that it's set to basically makes it jumbled up where you can move it wherever you want. And I think that's what's going to be best for a lot of us, is we can do whatever we want with it. It's not like set, but if you do want to play around with those, you can play around with those. So now with the Properties tab, it's whatever you have selected. So let's say I want to edit this particular button right here. You can see I've got that blue line around it. Type, you don't really need to worry about that right now. When you're doing different button types, you could change it, but right now we're working with standard buttons. Here's where you could add a symbol, or edit symbol is a button you might find helpful. I click edit symbol, it brings up an editor. I can draw on it if I need to add something to it. If I want to change this background so it's not black, I chose the fill bucket. I can pick a color, and I can just click here. Oh, let me try that again. Let me try a different color. All right, well, in theory, it should be changing this color. Again, Boardmaker's still working out some glitches. So, and I have heard some glitches with this symbol editor, actually. So when it's working up to par and it's at full capacity, you should be able to use that fill bucket to change the background if you wanted to. The skin tone is new. You can change the skin tone of a person, like a person symbol, which is actually really nice because that can play into some of our diversity. You can add shapes, you can erase, and there's filters you can play around with too. So that's the edit symbol option. One thing that I think is helpful is if, let's say, you don't want any text, you just want a picture, this little drop down here basically controls where the text is. Right now it's on the bottom, but if I don't want any text, I can click on the picture that has no text. Now that particular button doesn't have any text. Or if I want it on the top instead, I could click on the one where it's on the top. So that's how you could move that around. Let's say I wanted this to say something different. I didn't want it to say go. I wanted this picture, but I didn't want it to say go. I could click edit text. And then it brings up an option here where I can change what it says. So let's say if I say don't stop, just to think of something different, I can click save. And now, even though it's the go symbol, it says something different. So again, if you want to customize that, you can click edit text. Just like with our text box, you have your whole drop down here to change the font, the color, the size of this particular text up here. I could change the background color of this button. So if I click on fill, I can pick a color and it changes the background of it. Gradient basically means that like it swirls it around in different designs. I don't know a lot of people who use this, but just if you're wondering what does gradient mean, so you can basically click how the colors are swirled together. Style, I know a lot of the teachers like to play around with this style component. You can basically put a border on this button. Right now it has a very faint black line. You can make it so it has a more distinctive border. It goes up to 8. 8's the highest number you can choose. Again, the higher the number, the bigger the border. So I'm just going to do 8 and hit return. You can see now it's put a really thick black border on that. I could make it designed. So let's say I wanted round dots. I did click the drop down and chose round dots. And this is actually a really good thing because you can see it didn't do it. That means I didn't have the button selected. I really want to make sure that I click on that button and see that blue line around it, which means it's selected. And now I can go and click round dot. And now it changed how the border looks. This is also where you can change the shape. So like here for stop, let's say I was like, oh, I wish I made that a stop sign. You can see I've got my blue line around it. I can go down. Style is always going to be at the very bottom. I can click down where this drop down is. And then I can choose the octagon and now it's a stop sign. So that's another thing you can do under style. And then the very last thing here under this properties tab is just different things you can do to the buttons. Disabled basically means that it's grayed out. I'm not really sure how you would use that necessarily unless you just wanted it grayed out in the background. Just know that's what it does if you ever need it. Hidden basically hides the button. So you can see it put those checkered lines over it. Play is like preview mode. So if I go into preview mode, you can see now that's gone and I can't see it. So a good use for this might be like if your teacher says that she wants some visuals and like she said she wants 2 right now, but then eventually she's going to want 4, then you could hide 2 of them until later, and then you could unhide them. Do all the work at once and then hide what you don't need and then unhide them as you need them. And to do that, I would just click on that and go down to the bottom, and then I can uncheck that, and now we'll be able to see it again. So that's something you might find helpful. The last thing I wanted to point out is the locked option. It basically does exactly what it sounds like. I know Mac, you guys use Seesaw, and so it's the same thing like on Seesaw and how you're locking those buttons so they don't move. This is basically really helpful because I know me personally, when I've been making things, I go to move one of these boxes and I move the wrong one, or I move multiple things at once and it gets all jumbled up. So if you don't want that to happen, you could get in the habit of locking your buttons. You can see when I put my mouse there, there's a lock and I cannot move it anywhere and it's going to stay there. So that you might find that helpful. I know many times I've started over because I got it all jumbled up. So that might save you some time and frustration. So I'm looking through here. I think at this point I've pretty much gone over the core essentials of the editor and what you guys would probably be doing the most when you're using Boardmaker. Any questions on any of that? I'm checking the chat. I just see the question from Jeff from earlier. So if everybody's good, I'm just going to go ahead and show you how to save and how to print, because obviously that's going to be important. There's 2 ways you can save. Probably the easiest way is if you go up to the top. When you put your mouse at the top, you see you now have your drop-down menu, just like you do in Google or Microsoft Word or anything else you use. You always have the file menu. The thing to remember about Boardmaker is it does not save automatically. I know with Google Docs and Google Sheets, we're in the habit of like we can type in there and it'll automatically save it for us. Boardmaker does not do that. So you really want to make sure you save or you are going to lose what you've done. So definitely make sure you save. But what you'll do is you'll click on File, Save As. And then once you click Save As, you want to make sure that you see your teacher's email address here. It's not going to be your email address. It's going to be your teacher's because you're using their account. But you'll want to make sure you see that because that's what's going to save it in the right folder on the computer and what's going to sync it up with Boardmaker online and kind of backs it up for you. So you can name your file. So we can name it Go and Stop. And then you just click the blue Save button and it'll save it on the computer for you. I'm just going to change one thing here so I can show you the other way to save. I'll just make that bigger. All right, so I made a change. The other way you can save is clicking the Return to Dashboard button. This Return to Dashboard button is always going to take you back to the main page. So when you click that and you go to exit, if you have unsaved changes, it's going to say, okay, you didn't save. Do you want to save it? And so you want to make sure that you click the green Yes button and that'll save it as well. So either File or Return to Dashboard will allow you to save. Or if you click on an accident and you're not ready to leave, you can click Cancel like I just did. Because I wanted to show you guys one more thing that I forgot to mention, and that's how you can highlight multiple buttons at once. So like you see here, I have these stop buttons, and let's say I wanted to move them up a little higher. I can put my mouse in the white space here, not on a button. And just like I do with a lot of other things in Boardmaker, I can hold my mouse down and move the mouse. You can see there's a blue checkered line that's appearing on the screen. I can drag that over the buttons, and you can see I've now highlighted multiple things. So now I can move those around together, and I was able to select more than one button. That's helpful too when you're deleting. If you drew too many buttons or you just wanted a completely clean slate, again, you can put your mouse here in the white space, hold down, and move around. Now you can see I've highlighted the entire thing. the blue lines are on all the buttons. I can click delete, and now I have a clean slate and I can start over and make something else. So that's a helpful tip that I wanted to make sure I mentioned. So the last thing, after we've saved it, we need to know how to print it. And it is a little frustrating, I admit, because we're so used to, in Docs or in printing an email or whatever, we're so used to going to File, Print. Unfortunately, we do not have that in Boardmaker. What Boardmaker uses is this Create PDF button. So if you click Create PDF, you can see it looks just like it does when you go to print. You can pick what pages you want. You can edit that and make your print job exactly how you want it, but it doesn't print it. It basically makes a PDF. So what I would highly recommend getting in the habit of doing is checking this Open After Creating button. It'll turn into a green check mark when it's selected. And that basically means as soon as you click this Create button, it's going to open it as a PDF that you can print. So you don't have to do that, but if you don't, you'll have to go find it on the computer. So really get in the habit, you know, make your changes here, check this box, and then click Create, and that'll make things go a lot faster for you. So when you click Create, because I checked that box, I will just need to click Choose, just so I'm acknowledging that it's going on the computer. But once I click that Create button, this is multiple pages. So you can see down here, it's telling me that it's creating the pages, but you can see it just opened it here in preview, which anytime we find a PDF, I know a lot of us do Pinterest or we Google and we find PDFs, it opens it in preview. So this should look familiar to most of you. If you click File, now you've got the print option. So you click Print, it'll open up that window for you to select the paper cut or your classroom printer. But since it's Boardmaker and it's symbols, you're going to probably want to go with the paper cut and send it to the copy machine. And then you would do like you always do, you click Print and it'll print it. So I apologize because I know it's a lot of steps. You have to create the PDF and then you have to print it, but that's how Boardmaker set it up. So when you want to print, click Create PDF, and that'll be how you would do that. Again, when I'm done in here, I can click Return to Dashboard, and it takes me back to the main page. And I'm ready to make something else, or I could click on the green button and minimize it and exit it out and be done with it. So that kind of goes over, I'm going to stop presenting so I can look at you guys. So that kind of goes over like the core of how to use Boardmaker, how to make symbol supports and visual supports for your teachers, or whatever it is that your classroom needs. Again, we can do more detailed training kind of as we go, but that kind of goes over the core. So are there any, I'm seeing the chat, that's still Jeff's question, familiar. So yeah, that's kind of the core things that I wanted to go over. Are there any, I know you guys said you didn't have any questions as we went along, but have you guys thought of any questions here at the end? All right. Again, I think some of you joined late, so I just wanted to point out at the very bottom left corner of your screen where it says MECCEnger Paraprofessionals, there's a little clip there. If you click on that, you can find the handouts. You can print them off and look at them, and it goes through exactly what I just showed you. I also recorded it if you want to watch it again. So obviously you guys know you can call me, email me, and I'm happy to come and help you make something if you go to do something and you get stuck. But hopefully this makes you feel a little more comfortable with how to make stuff in Boardmaker. So yeah, thank you guys for hopping on, and let me know if you guys have any questions.
Thank you.
Thank you, Rachel.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Thank you.
Thanks, Rachel.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Thank you,
Thanks, Rachel.